Alright, and welcome back to part 4 of my tutorial series for leatherworking for Glowforge users. Today we are going to talk about stitching up a project for the first time. In part 1 we talked about buying your hides, buying your leather, what you're looking for. Part 2 we set up this cut, not on this piece of leather, but I'm cheating here. Set up this cut and did the cut. Part 3 we talked about the tools that you're going to need for doing some of this stuff. Your needles, your hammers, your knives, and today we are actually going to sew this together. So let's get started. The John James needles, the eyes are a little bit small, so they can be a bit of a pain to thread. Some of the Tandy needles and others are bigger, but I still love the John James. So we're going to take our thread, and the rule of thumb is you want 4 times the stitch length. So we're going to gently measure this out, and we're going to say this is 1x stitch length. There's 2, 3, and 4. Now what I can tell you from experience is that this rule of thumb does not take into account thread chicken. So I like to go about 6 to 8 inches past what 4 times the stitch length is, because thread chicken sucks, and running out of thread when you're 4 holes from the end is terrible. So the thread that we're using is a waxed nylon. Now if you really want to, you can take a block of beeswax and take your thread and just pull it back over it and wax it even more. This is not something I do very often. The thread's usually pretty good, but it's a thing that people can do. So the way we're going to thread this is we're going to put it through the eye of the needle, and then we're going to take our needle and we're actually going to pierce through the thread, trying to get it as close to the center of the thread because we want as much purchase on as we can get. So pierce through the thread. Now I'm going to pull the loop down over itself here and then just cinch it up tight. We're not tying knots, we're just piercing thread. We're going to do that for the other end here. Again, these needles can be a bit of a pain to thread, but they're not too bad. You start getting into the 1.2 millimeter threads, it gets worse. So again, we're going to pierce our thread, we're going to pull the loop down over itself, cinch it tight. And now we have a length of thread with a needle on each end. And we're going to do what is called saddle stitching. Now, there's no correct way to do this necessarily. A lot of guides recommend using a saddle, a stitching pony, which is a big piece of wood that you clamp your work in so that it will stand up straight in front of you, and then you take the needles in each hand and pass them through and just keep doing them like this. So I don't like doing that. I picked up this technique from Quarter Leather, and it seems to work a lot better for me personally. Your mileage may vary, but what we're trying to do is essentially we're lacing up holes that exist with this, and we're stacking the thread inside of those holes in a particular order. No matter how you do it, you want to make sure you're doing the exact same thing for every single stitch, or you're going to get a stitch line that's jagged and walks all over the place because you haven't stacked them correctly. You don't always have the same one coming under when it goes this way and going over when it goes that way, or other way around. So I'll show you my technique. We'll start out and we'll do a couple stitches, and then I'm going to do a jump cut. So I start by putting it through the top 2 holes right here. Pull everything tight. So then I'll take the one from this first or the second hole. I'm going to pull this thread tight to get it out of the way and go back through the first hole. So now I have 1 full stitch around there, and there is my back stitch. So 1 back stitch. I'm going to take this next piece and I'm going to line it up here and see when I need to start putting them through that one too. So that's going to be in the 3rd hole. So I got a moment. So now we have 1 on each side. I'm going to pull them, make sure they're even. I'm going to start doing this. So what I'll do is I'll hold it, and I'm always trying to go to my right. So I'll take the front one through, pull it tight, and I'll let it drop down straight, and I'll grab it with my finger. Okay. This thread comes up and over, and I go through that same hole from the back side. I'm usually not this awkward with it. I'm trying to show it on a camera, so it's a little more awkward. Pull that one through, and bam, there is one full stitch. Got twice through each hole. So next we're going to put this front flap in. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. Front side first, goes through all the layers, pull it through, drop it down, bring the other one over top while I pull that one back with my finger. Through from the back side of the same hole, pull it tight, and then lather, rinse, repeat, right? You will constantly loop your thread on your workpiece. That's just a thing that's gonna happen. But you'll eventually get the hang of this, and you'll be able to go rather quickly through stitching a thing. You're just muscle memory and repetition. You get the groove down, and you keep doing the same thing each time. Now, about every 3 or 4 stitches, what I'll do, if you've got a stiff piece of leather, like a thicker veg tan, you can pull straight and cinch everything tight. When I'm working with a softer one like this is an oil tan, I'll actually pull it along the length of the stitch to get it cinched down tight, flatten out those threads a little bit. So now I'm going to use the magic of a jump cut, and we're going to go right to the end of this stitching.
A few minutes later.
And like magic, we're done. So we've got it stitched to the last hole, and now what we're going to do is we're going to back stitch to lock this thread. So I'm just literally going to go back one hole, pull it tight this way, take the other one, go back through that same hole the other direction. You're trying, if you can help it, to not pierce the thread, but if it does, it's a thing. So, well done, we're going to take and we're going to snip our thread down. You don't have to have fancy like thread snips like this. Any scissors will do. X-Acto knife will do. I'm sure you've got something laying around the house. We all have scissors. So, next we're going to take a lighter and we're going to melt this thread down. And all we're going to do there is take and get it a little melty, and you'll see it start to retreat. And then squish it with the end of the lighter. Some people use their fingers. I am not that fond of touching hot things, so I don't. I use the metal part of the lighter. And that's it. There is a finished product ready to go. Now this one was oil tan, so I didn't dye it. I'm not going to finish it. We'll talk about that in the next video. I know in the first video I said you're going to cut mostly veg tan, but this one's an oil tan. It's a little sketchy to cut, but it works, and it makes a beautiful product. Now I could, if I wanted to, take the burnisher and finish these edges like we talked about in the last video, but I think I'm going to send it. I think this one is a finished product. I'm going to call it good. So again, if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, let me know if there's anything else you want to see. If you're looking to get your own Glowforge, I'll put an affiliate link down below. I'll get a much appreciated commission off of it, and you will save up to $500 on a Glowforge. So look for more in the future. I'll do the next part about finishing and dyeing, since I did not cover that in this one. And thanks for watching.